Thank you for joining us on Northwest Newsweek. Ontario Provincial Police in Red Lake are investigating a homicide in that community over the weekend. Red Lake OPP were called to the area outside of Norseman Heritage Park early last Sunday regarding a deceased male. Members of the OPP's Forensic Identification Unit, Crime Unit, and the Criminal Investigation Branch are investigating the cause of death. The victim has been identified as 43-year-old John McDougall of Red Lake. Anyone with information regarding the incident is asked to contact the OPP. 2 people are confirmed dead after 2 tractor-trailers collided head-on early Wednesday morning on Highway 17 west of Chappaqua. Due to the accident, the Trans-Canada Highway was shut down for 9 hours. The collision occurred at around 8:30 just past Wraith. Debris from both transport trucks littered the highway, with the cleanup and investigation process taking up most of the day. The 2 victims, identified as 2 33-year-old males, were pronounced dead on the scene. One was from Steinbach, the other from Calgary. They were both drivers of the 2 tractor-trailer units that collided. One other person, a passenger of one of the vehicles, was taken to hospital and is in stable condition. Traffic Sergeant David Bell says the damage is extensive.
We have our identification unit on scene. Technical collision investigators are on scene. We've put our UAV up quickly to take some overview shots, and we'll be using it again shortly to do some mapping of the collision scene. You can see by the debris pattern behind us that a lot of debris is on the highway. We're going to have to clean that up. We're going to try and determine where the point of impact was, and then once that's done, then hopefully we'll get one lane open and get some traffic flowing through here.
Highway 11 and Highway 622 through Atikokan were used as a detour route, while Highway 17 was closed for the police investigation and cleanup. Thunder Bay OPP are also investigating the cause of a horrific 3-vehicle crash on Highway 102 that claimed the lives of 2 people and sent 5 others to hospital. It happened around 9 o'clock Monday night at the Cam River Bridge near Silver Falls Road. A pair of westbound vehicles, a pickup truck and an SUV, collided with one another. That sent the SUV crashing into an eastbound car. The driver of the car, a 44-year-old Saskatchewan man, was pronounced dead on the scene. The driver of the SUV, 35-year-old Jonathan Whitehead from Summer Beaver, was rushed to hospital, but he also succumbed to his injuries. 5 other passengers in the SUV were taken to hospital as well, and their injuries are now described as non-life-threatening. The driver of the pickup wasn't hurt either. Highway 102 was closed for about 7.5 hours while OPP, the Cam Fire Department, and Thunder Bay Fire Rescue attended the scene. Thunder Bay District Municipal League's 100th annual conference wrapped up last week. Day 1 of the gathering put focus on the MTO's 5-year Northern Highways plan and an update on the search to build a nuclear waste storage facility in the region. Day 2 saw the topic shift to the discussion of winter emergency protocols and refugee programs in the Northwest. Corey Nordstrom has the details.
Member of Parliament Patty Haidu headlined the second day of discussions with municipal leaders across the region. Haidu discussed a number of topics, focusing on the successes they've seen in the region as of late. Under her role as Minister of Employment, there have been improvements made to the way skills training is run, along with an increase in the number of infrastructure projects. She also made clear to the room that given her position in Ottawa, she's doing everything in her power to bridge the gap from rural communities to our capital.
Oftentimes, those communities feel like they have been voiceless, and so my perspective is that is a really important part of my job as MP for Northern Ontario, to bring the perspective of Northern Ontario to Ottawa, the perspective of rural communities in particular, and how challenging it can be to build the things they need and access the services they need.
Marathon Mayor and President of the Thunder Bay Municipal League, Rick Dumas, compared the branches of government to a family structure, where local ridings are the kids, the province is the parent, and the federal government being the grandparent. Dumas says that there isn't always agreement between the townships in our area, and this symposium is ideal for making municipalities work together to help the region.
But the reality is, we bring the one voice back to the table through these discussions, through these meetings, and come to a consensus, and then bring it back to, of course, our provincial parent, and then look for solutions with those issues that we bring to the table.
Kathy Woodbeck is the Executive Director for the Thunder Bay Multicultural Association. The main topic she touched on was an update on district-wide refugee programs, with Canada needing an estimated 350 immigrants by 2035 just to meet its workforce needs. She also spoke about the need to grow communities in northwestern Ontario.
Our main aim is to grow our communities. We want to grow the communities. We want employers to be fully staffed. We want to have newcomers arriving in our communities because we want to see it survive and grow, not continue to shrink.
Talks of the day also included community emergency management and what types of concerning situations may arise in northwestern Ontario. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Sparks flew this week in the Ontario legislature. The Progressive Conservative member from Sault Ste. Marie accused the Wynne Liberals of taking mining in the province for granted. Ross Romano says during the last PC government, Ontario was ranked as the #1 mining jurisdiction in the world, adding that by 2015, the province dropped to 23rd place. Romano says there are several reasons why this occurred, including a disinterest in Northern Ontario and a lack of action in the Ring of Fire.
I went to the Ring of Fire and I saw firsthand the potential there. I visited the impacted First Nation communities and I was told that this government has negotiated in bad faith. It is embarrassing and it is shameful that the Liberals sit on their hands and allow Ontario's potential to waste away. Why, Mr. Speaker, does this Premier continue to ignore Northern Ontario?
You asked the same sort of question last week. I know you were at the Ring of Fire, but I was at the Ring of Fire also with Minister Gravel and Minister Morrow. We met, as I said last week, with the Chief Executive Officer of Noron. We inspected the site. We got a detailed briefing, and I can tell you that this represents a historic opportunity to develop the northern mining sector. That's going to provide jobs. It's going to contribute tax dollars to our economy. It's going to provide opportunities for Indigenous people. This government is committed to that project. That's why we've got $1 billion on the table to develop an access corridor to bring those metals out of the ground into production. That's going to mean jobs, 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 and tax dollars.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is asking for assistance from the public in identifying those responsible for shooting and abandoning 2 bull moose near Manitowaj. On October 29th, after receiving a tip, conservation officers discovered 2 bull moose 50 meters from the road near Forbay Lake. It's believed that both animals were shot simultaneously and then abandoned. This incident comes on the heels of 3 other cases in recent weeks of abandoned moose in the northwest. 2 near Ear Falls and 1 near Sioux Lookout. In those instances, the tongues, noses, and bells were removed from the animals. If the results of a recent enforcement blitz are any indicator, it appears a large number of hunters in the region are ignoring basic safety rules. The moose hunting enforcement patrols were conducted in the Nipigon area between October 7th and 22nd and resulted in the laying of 52 charges. Among them, 29 charges for having a loaded firearm in a vehicle. Other charges laid by the MNRF included several moose seal violations. As well, 7 moose were seized and 2 investigations were launched into possible careless use of a firearm. Earlier this year, we brought you a story about a contest in the Dryden area aimed at breathing life into the economic diversity of the community. After months of hard work and tough decisions, the first ever Win This Space competition wrapped up earlier this summer. Luisa Alvarez has more.
Dryden's first ever Win This Space competition has ended and has found a winner. Morgan Shepherd and her business, Little Mod Nest, which makes handcrafted, eco-friendly clothes for young children. Shepherd says it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience before making her final pitch to the judges.
Backstage, my hands were sweating, I was like shaking, and then once I got up there and I realized that people are there to support me, not to judge me, I suppose, besides the judges. But it was very scary, and I'm proud of myself for going through with it, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Little Mod Nest isn't Shepherd's first foray into business. You could even say business ownership runs in the family, as there are several other successful businesses in Dryden being run by her parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles.
They think I'm crazy for doing this, but they're all very encouraging. I've always wanted to run my own business. I've sold artwork in the past. I've had lemonade stands when I was about 10 years old, and just it's built up to this moment.
The contest had 12 applicants vying for the top prize, which was a year of rent for a storefront location in the city. Dryden Chamber of Commerce manager Lorna Wood says based on the success of the first to win this space, there's a chance that it could become a regular event in Dryden.
We are going to, at some point in the very near future, just kind of sit around a table and discuss the whole event, how it went right from the beginning. And maybe there are some places that we can tweak it here and there a little bit to improve on it. But we will certainly be getting together to discuss the next event.
Louise Alvarez, TPT News.
2 marathon men are in hot water after trying to capitalize on a weekend crash involving a cattle truck. The accident happened last Saturday on Highway 17 west of Marathon near the Little Pick River Bridge, and it left several cattle roaming free. OPP arrested 2 men the following day. The 2 43-year-old marathon men are facing theft charges, while one is also charged with careless use of a firearm. It's the time of year where activities are shifting now for recreation with the first snowfall of the season, which also means the Recreation Center in Red Rock is fully open. The arena rink is iced and ready to welcome residents looking to play or watch hockey. Every year, the building becomes a hub for residents in the community who want to enjoy some winter fun. With the winter closure of the Interpretive Center, the Recreation Center also becomes the only location in town with a restaurant that will run until spring. Mayor Gary Nelson says by using $27,000 in federal tax funds, the municipality was able to make significant improvements to the facility.
This summer, we got a grant to replace all the lighting system in here. It was very, very poorly lit all along, and now all this lighting that you see nice and bright, our public work boys did all this work in here, changed all the lights, all that done on the grant. Then they finished this job and they went upstairs to the auditorium and they replaced all the lights up there.
Coming up after the break, forest fire season is over and officials with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry give us a breakdown of the cost and damage done to the Northwest this past summer. Well, November 1st officially marked the end of forest fire season in Ontario. According to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Thunder Bay District dealt with 62 blazes this past year, and the entire Northwest region saw more than 600 forest fires. That's about 3 times as many as last year. Carlisle Facette has the story.
Busy, but under control. That's how Thunder Bay Fire Management described their summer dealing with the forest fires in this area. Gary Harland is the fire management supervisor in the Thunder Bay District. He says of the 62 area fires, 9 were started by humans this spring, which required the most contentious responses of the season.
In the springtime, there were several properties that were at risk in the spring between ourselves and our partners, our municipal partners, and the other folks from the other volunteer fire departments. We managed to my recollection right now, save everything that was threatened. And during the middle of the summertime and later on, there was nothing really threatening in the Thunder Bay District.
In addition, Harlan says his crews were continuously being sent out to aid other districts in the Northwest. The MNR statistics show there were 654 fires across the entire region this year. That's the highest number in the past 5 years and more than triple the figure from 2016. However, the total area that burned was actually down about 16,000 hectares from last year, but still higher than the previous 3 fire seasons. It suggests that while there were more fires this year, they were smaller and more manageable than last season's. Harlan says area crews were also lent to fight blazes as far away as British Columbia.
By and large, for the amount of travel that our folks endured and went through and the amount of fire we fought, the amount of fire line, and the amount of time on the fire line that our staff spent, there was very few injuries, very few accidents. So that's a significant achievement. And then keeping most of our fires small and managing most of fires with minimal value loss, certainly in this region, that's another tremendous success as well.
About 70% of forest fires around the province were started by lightning, while the other 30% were caused by humans. Meanwhile, the province's budget for forest firefighting this year was $118 million. Carlisle Fazette, TVT News.
More information is coming to light regarding that frozen body of a cougar found earlier this year. The MNR is now saying DNA samples show that the animal was not from this region. Back in March, a group of LU students found the carcass of a malnourished cougar along a bush road near Kabaka Falls. The DNA testing has determined the cougar had a genetic fingerprint most closely related to cougars in the Black Hills area of the U.S., a region that covers parts of South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska. According to MNR spokesperson Yolanta Kowalski, scientists working with the DNA at a facility in Montana have a 95% accuracy rate. Although there is no existing DNA database for cougars in Ontario, Kowalski says the lab tests show the animal was not part of a resident cougar population in northern Ontario. Experts are still left wondering where it came from and how it ended up on the side of the road in such poor condition. But Kowalski adds there likely won't be a follow-up investigation related to the case. A major arrest this week for OPP in Ignace. They've taken into custody a man wanted in connection with several bank robberies in New Brunswick and Southern Ontario. The arrest came after a suspect vehicle was spotted on Highway 17 traveling westward through Ignace. A spike belt was deployed to help stop the vehicle. 37-year-old Jeffrey Gorsline was wanted for several holdups. The most recent one took place this past weekend in Niagara Falls. It's been 10 years since Thunder Bay Police recovered the body of Reggie Bushy from the Nebing-McIntyre floodway. On Wednesday, around 250 people walked the riverbanks to remember Bushy and the many other First Nations youth who lost their lives in city waterways. Shaoli Lee was there.
They came from all walks of life to remember one whose life was cut short. On the anniversary of the discovery of the body of 15-year-old Reggie Bushy, hundreds of people left Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School for a day to remember, a memorial walk for Bushy and other First Nations youth. The walk ended here on the banks of the Nebing-McIntyre floodway, where 10 years ago police discovered the body of Reggie Bushy in the water. When the walk arrived, Bushy's brother, Ricky Strang, became emotional and walked into the water about waist deep. He had to be consoled by several elders, including Nan Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler. Afterwards, an elder led a prayer calling for a better world for all young people.
I think it just showed that he still carries a heavy load, and I think that's something that we hope through the ceremony today that we can begin to address the grief and the loss that we all have, and especially his brother Ricky.
Afterwards, the walkers returned to DFC for a feast being hosted by the Anishinaabe Nation and investigative journalist Tanya Talaga, who just released a book about the student deaths called Seven Fallen Feathers. Students who took part in the walk say they welcomed the chance to join in the memorial.
There's more and more news about another person found in the river, and I think we need to raise awareness on our school, especially because we are a very important school. Everybody here is like a family. We're not like all like strangers to each other. We're a big family here.
Students were also given copies of Talaga's book, which documents the lives and deaths of the 7 First Nations students in city waterways, including Bushy. Though the book is now part of the DFC curriculum, Fiddler says he wants to see things go one step further.
Do you think it's a book that maybe should be on the curriculum of every high school in Thunder Bay?
It should be. I think it tells an important story. Maybe not the story that makes all of us comfortable, and but it's something that we all need to learn.
Shaoli Lee, TBT News.
Coming up after this break, those with a need for speed in the Kenora area rejoice as a new racetrack opens for a series of test laps. Well, for people with a need for speed in northwestern Ontario, there's one more racetrack being added to the mix. Currently, drivers can race at the Mosquito and Emo Speedway and the Terrace Bay Drag Fest. Opening next year in Kenora, there will be one more place for people to drive. Adam Riley has the story.
2 years of development, discussions, and collaborative efforts paid off last month as 20 cars were given the chance to take a series of test laps on the new Lake of the Woods Speedway in Kenora. Leading the charge for the creation of the track was Anthony Leake, who prior to moving to Kenora was part of the Emo Speedway organization near Fort Francis. He says this day has been a long time coming.
Feels pretty good. You know, to get to where we are has been nothing short of awesome, because we've been able to get this track ready in time for this. The weather's been really good for the last little while, and it's been we're not done. We got a ways to go still, but the track's pretty much ready to go, and now we can really start adding all the amenities.
Leake says the open house held last month was to help reintroduce dirt track racing to area residents, adding there is a history here in the Northwest of the sport.
The sport is having a resurgence over the last couple of years, and this is just a great opportunity to kind of bring that passion to Kenora.
Leake adds there is potential for the facility to operate year-round with snowmobile and ice racing in the winter. Residents and drivers from all around the region came out to the exhibition to see what the new track had to offer.
The track is incredible. Anthony did an awesome job with the track. It's nice and wide. It's sticky and tacky for us. It's going to be a great racetrack with lots of great racing.
I think it's a really good idea. They don't have anything around here for that right now. I think it's a good family event. There's lots to see and do. That would also help in the wintertime when there's a little bit less to do. They can race snow machines and that out here.
Oh, I'm loving it. Just loving it. I've been waiting 42 years to do this stuff, so my first time out here on a track, it's been great.
Where are you from?
Sioux Lookout. Originally from Geraldton, but I've been in Sioux Lookout for about 8 years and glad to see this track coming up close to home.
Kenora Mayor Dave Canfield also came out to take in the excitement and roar of the track. He says he has been supportive of the project since he and the city were first approached by Leake and is looking forward to the track's potential.
I can't believe the amount of work that Anthony has done over the summer to get this thing ready, single-handed. Obviously, lots of help and people's input, but just amazing what he's done. And the amount of people out here that just come out to see these people just go and test the track out. It gives you a good idea of how this is going to boost their tourism in Kenora.
Leake and Canfield both agreed that the venue could bring upwards of $1 million or more in tourism revenue to the city of Kenora annually, making it a virtual gold mine. A fitting metaphor as the site itself actually sits on an old gold mine shaft that was shut down in the late 1800s. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The city of Kenora is getting recognition for its job well done in hosting part of the 2017 Canada Summer Games. While many of the events took place in or around Winnipeg, the city of Kenora was given the honor to host the game's rowing competition on Rabbit Lake. Mayor Dave Canfield says as a thank you to the city, they were gifted with a complete set of the medals awarded to the winners. He says many of the athletes were impressed by the venue, some even calling it one of the best venues in the world. Canfield says with all of the positive remarks, he's confident Kenora can host another event.
Definitely opens a big door, and especially with our close proximity to Winnipeg, and things that transpire there, and so many summer residents that love to enjoy Kenora in the summertime, and it's that connection, and then relationships that have proven big dividends, and I expect that we're going to see more events, especially around rowing, because you have athletes from BC, athletes from Inuvik that are wow, what a venue.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join us next time.